Hi there. Welcome to Functional Family Fridays. I'm Reiki Rita Roberts. Today's topic is the fourth most emotional, damaging type of parent. And this is a hot topic because the fourth type of parent that's emotionally damaging is the parents who play favorites amongst their children. This is very common, unfortunately, in families that are struggling with dysfunction. So, next week, you'll want to stay tuned because I'm going to talk about the effects of sibling family favoritism, which is sibling rivalry. So, today, because it's so huge, I broke it up into two videos. So, today, we're going to talk about family favoritism, how parents use favoritism amongst their children. So again, I'll be referring to my notes. So what is favoritism? That's when a parent purposely focuses their time, energy, and attention on one of their children, right? Rather than considering the needs of all of their children. So that's favoritism. Another way of spotting favoritism is when one child is being treated special or seems to get more privileges than the other children. Okay? Another way of knowing is when one child is favored or not disciplined or punished and the other children are. So that's favoritism as well. Also, in divorced families with mixed families, when the parent favors their biological child over their stepchildren. So there's sort of a new blend of favoritism in divorced families as well. Okay, so that's what favoritism is. Basically, picking out a child or two and favoring them over your other children. All right? So, why does this happen? Why do parents do that? Because when they first have all these children, they're completely in love with them. But somewhere down the line in the parenting journey, this sort of favoritism starts. And I'm going to tell you why. So, what happens is parents have more in common with the favorite child. So again, parents are sometimes intentionally favoritism, but most of them do it unintentionally. Most of them aren't even conscious that they're doing it. So what they do is gravitate towards a child that is most like them. All right? The favorite child reminds them of themselves. This is why, so there's a bit of ego there. So the child feels like they're mini me, so they tend to favor that child, right? Sometimes it's learned behavior, that they've learned it from their parents. Their parents did favoritism, or grandparents. Okay, so I want to mention that as well. That if favoritism is alive and well in your family and you don't fix it as a parent, chances are, very good chances are, you'll become a favoring grandparent as well. I spoke about that in my book, Parents of Price Tags, where I called it the golden grandchild. So that same negative parenting behavior, if it's not fixed, of course it's going to follow you into the next generation. And often these type of parents will have favored grandchildren as well. So now you're damaging two generations. Ouch. So it's learned behavior. Another reason why favoritism happens, because parents tend to perhaps focus on the new baby and neglect the other children. So it seems to that child that the parent favors the new baby. That also happens with new parents and new children. Favoritism also happens in certain cultures. where they show favor to male children versus female children. Okay. So also favoritism happens with the firstborn child and the baby child. All right. They tend to be spoiled and have more privileges as well. Also, the favorite child is easier and less challenging than another child for the parent, so they tend to favor that easy child. Okay, we'll talk a bit more about that. And also, favoritism happens when there's some sort of fear around the child. And I'll explain what I mean. For instance, if the parent has a special needs child, there's fear because it's a special needs child. Or they've adopted a child because they could never get pregnant. There's fear because this child is adopted and special, right? All children are special, but you know what I mean. Or there's fear around perhaps a parent lost a previous child or miscarried. So now this child, they're sort of tiptoeing around it because there was fear there, because they had lost another child. So they want to make sure this one is sort of put on a pedestal. Or, another variance could be that this favored child is actually not a favored child, but the fear that they're bringing is they're bullying the parent. So if they bully the parent will succumb to the needs of the child over the other children because they're afraid of them. That happens quite often as well, where the power is transferred from the parent to the child, right? So that's sort of why it happens, all right? So which type of parents play favorites and why? Let's talk about that. So there's many reasons why, again, parents play favorites, as we just discussed. So again, it's done unconsciously by the parent. Sometimes it's done on purpose and consciously as a way to punish another child. So again, all negative parenting styles, which are not healthy. So I'm not saying they're right, I'm just saying what's happening here. Okay, so I'd like to think that favoritism is done unintentionally, but unfortunately, for some families, it is done intentionally, okay? And it's very emotionally painful for the child. So all these parents have something in common. They have unresolved emotional pain. They're typically emotionally wounded. They have fear around them, low self-esteem. They're completely unhappy. They feel unloved themselves, all right? And they're using one or more of these negative parenting styles that I'm about to tell you about. So you could recognize these parents because they tend to be needy with a low self-esteem. So these parents try to establish their self-worth by favoring the child who will fill their need to be needed. Okay? My mother did that with my oldest sister. She was basically her bookend. They mirrored each other. So that sister, filled her up, made her feel good about herself because she filled that need to give my mother purpose and feel needed. So of course she favored her, where I was a little bit different than that. So needy parent with low self-esteem will favor the child who fills their need to be needed. The other type that does favoritism is a narcissistic or ego type parent. These parents favor the children that remind them of themselves. Remember, because ego is all about themselves. So it feeds their ego, it hides their insecurities, and it boosts their self-confidence. So whichever child is their mini-me, they're going to gravitate right to them. Okay? The other type of parent that favors is the naive or parent that's afraid, right? These parents are emotionally weak. They're stuck in denial. Excuse me. So even when they're made aware of the favoritism, they lack the emotional intelligence and the courage to deal with the problem. So you're basically talking to the wall if you have a parent in denial. And it's not because they don't want to do something, they just don't have the intelligence, the parenting skills, or they're just plain afraid to do something, okay? And then finally, the other type of parent that favors is a victim parent or the addicted parent. These parents favor the child that will surrender to their need for attention and enable their addictive lifestyle, okay? So whoever's the child is the enabler, that addicted or victim parent will totally gravitate to them, okay? So how do you tell if you're parenting with favoritism? It's very, very simple. The best way to know whether or not one child's being favored over another in your family is by watching and listening to the reactions of your other children. Go ahead and ask your other children. Ask them if they feel, that you favor one or the other. You can always count on the neglected child to tell you the truth, okay? And they may not say it directly, but it'll be in their words and their actions and their behavior, okay? So if you really want to see the truth, pay attention, because you will see it, okay? And it's a tough question for parents with multiple children, because you do have various facets and personality traits of your children. Some things you like, some things you may not like, and it's harder to tolerate. But it still means you have a job as a parent to love them unconditionally. So focus on what you do love about them the most and make that, the most important thing you see first versus their flaws. I have 3 children. You could see my mama bear with 3 bears, children, and 1 grandson. So far I can spoil my grandson a little bit because the other grandchildren haven't arrived yet. But when they do, I have to be conscious of that as well, just as I have to do with my 3 children. Now, what I notice is that they're all very different. They're 3 different people. Of course they're different, Just because they came from the same place doesn't mean your children are the same. They don't look the same, sound the same, behave the same. They all don't have the same wishes and dreams, passions and desires. So as a parent, you have to love that about them, okay? Find that about them and work with that. So if you notice, there's always bits and pieces of you in them, And sometimes the things we don't like about ourselves that come out in our children is why we tend to veer away from that child, because we don't like that piece of ourself. So again, it always goes back to self-healing, if you notice. Always about a reflection of healthy parent, being a happy, healthy parent, conscious parent. So how do parents avoid favoritism with their children? So the only way to avoid favoritism is to ensure that each one of your children feels unconditionally loved and valued by you. That's your job, okay? You have to love them authentically for who they are, not what you wish you can package them up to be, okay? It's not about you. God gave you that child on loan, okay? So you could raise it to the best of your ability through love and unconditional love, respect, and value, okay? So this, as you can see, requires a lot of your energy, right? And being a conscious, happy parent. So the way that you can do that is you have to have good, emotional health. Because remember, parenting is an emotional job. So if your emotions are not healthy, chances are you're going to trip up on the parenting, okay? So my recommendation as a parenting coach, holistic parenting coach, if you were raised with favoritism yourself in your own family, I know that I was, or believe you are parenting with favoritism, you must start your emotional healing right now before things get even worse, because I assure you, they will. All right, like I said, it'll go from your family to your grandkids and generation after generation. So I know that you don't want that. That's why you're here. So the only way to stop it is we have to start healing ourselves so we can start fixing this. So as my gift to you for tuning in today, I'd like to give you my free chapter on parents who play favorites from my book just above me, Parents with Price Tags. So if you want that free chapter, please email me and I'll fire that off to you as soon as possible. Okay, so I'll give you a bit more details. Remember, these videos are just a quick snapshot, but if you want more detail, the book is a great resource. All right, so feel free to reach out. Also, download my free emotional checklist that is available on my homepage on my website. Excuse me. So go to thefunctionalfamily.ca and get that emotional checklist for free. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed today's video and found this very useful as to why your kids aren't getting along and why favoritism is happening. Okay? So tune in next week for sibling rivalry, how the favoritism is now affecting the children's relationships amongst themselves. So you're going to want to tune into that. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a wonderful day. Again, if you're not part of my Facebook group yet as well, feel free to join Stressful Family Relationships on Facebook. It's a free group. Join today and reach out for the free chapter and the emotional checklist on the homepage. From my heart to yours, have a blessed day. Stay hopeful, and good things will come if you continue to work on them. From my heart to yours, God bless.